I know you're coming out soon with your World Economic Outlook update. I wonder if you can give us a bit of a, curtain raiser on it. Which way are we headed? Are things stronger than you expected or weaker? And is that different compared to what time period we're talking about?
So, Steve, right now, of course, we're going through a dark winter. If you look at what's happening in terms of virus cases, that there are record highs, hospitalizations and deaths. So it's a very dark and difficult winter. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. In terms of the outlook, I think that what is true as of now is that we're starting out the year at a somewhat stronger point than we had expected in 2020, and which is a good thing. But right now, it's a race between the virus and the vaccines. Until we get past this, I think this is a pretty difficult period at this time.
I understand that. And I'm wondering if you could explain to us, and I have a lot of sympathy for what economic forecasters are going through right now, because it takes more epidemiology than it does actual economics. But what do you expect to happen? Are you expecting widespread distribution of a vaccine and a return to pretty much normal by what, the second or third quarter?
So first, this varies across different parts of the world. So for advanced economies, for many of them, the projections are that there would be widespread coverage in the summer, somewhere in the summer, towards the end of the summer or the beginning of the summer, depending on the country. But if you want to cover the world as a whole, we are looking at getting towards the end of 2022. So there is still a big gap in terms of vaccine coverage. But at the same time, along with vaccine coverage, there's also the factor about the stimulus. And we've had the news about the additional stimulus in the U.S., the stimulus that's been announced in Japan. So I think there is this, the vaccine and stimulus-driven recovery that one could expect in the second half of this year.
Just to dig into that a little bit more, Gita, this is Morgan. Thanks for being with us. But this idea of a recovery, at least in the second half of this year, there does seem to be, at least from a Wall Street standpoint, this real debate about how strong and how fervent that recovery could actually be, that the risk seems to be to the upside. And you take that and you couple it with Fed monetary policy and really central bank monetary policy the world over that's been very loose. And there seems to be this debate about what that's going to look like, whether central banks are going to have to pull back and what that means also in terms of inflation. Where do you land in that debate?
So, Morgan, so if you look at most of the major economies of the world and you look at where their inflation is, it's below target in many of these economies. If you look at 1 year ahead inflation expectations, it's below their target. And so the argument to be raising rates anytime soon just doesn't seem to be there. So there is a reason for rates to stay low, at least for the near term. Even if you look at wage pressures, inflation expectations, it's just not that pressure. So interest rates will stay low. But in terms of just even Steve's question about the extent of the rebound, I think what we are seeing is quite a difference across countries. And this is even within advanced economy groups. There's a difference in the rate of recovery in the U.S. relative to what we're seeing in the euro area. So we'll have the numbers out on the 26th. But what you will see is very differential speeds of getting back to the pre-COVID levels, even within the advanced economy group.
Yeah, I am curious in terms of the near term, especially in a week where you see the UK, for example, going back under this broad-based lockdown. From an economic standpoint, specifically, based on everything we know, all the data we've gathered over the past year going through this pandemic, are the economic trade-offs too great when you see lockdowns like this take hold?
Well, what we're seeing in the world is that there are countries where, there's no trade-off. An example is China, where you have, they've done extremely well in terms of containing the virus, and they have one of the economies that is rebounding the fastest. And on the other hand, you have countries in some in Latin America where you both have very high number of cases and deaths per capita, and you have an economy that's doing quite poorly. So, I think what we're learning, and again, this is for the scientists to really comment on, but what we are seeing is that having an early enough lockdown, which is stringent enough so that you don't end up with an exponential growth in the cases, helps bring about the recovery somewhat faster and helps with containing the spread. But there is no, simple solution to how to deal with this pandemic.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.